Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's time for another video. And so I meant to do this so long ago, I just forgot, man. But I wanted to make an updated video this year on my mastery setup. I made one last year. It's great. Things have changed. Battlegrounds is now very prominent. So I'm going to be showing you guys my favorite mastery setup for Battlegrounds, the one that's kind of my go-to. But we're going to start off on the CCP beta, and I'm going to show you guys my suicide build first. So we'll get to the battleground stuff and, you know, the day-to-day war defensive placement stuff. Let's start with the fun stuff, suicides. So, you know, this is the build that I run when I want to be using suicides. Now, this could be for a number of reasons, usually mainly for solo content. So, you know, Abyss, Labyrinth, Act 7, Act 8. When I have suicides on, I'm just trying to run through paths, you know, make it quick. Use champions like Ghost, Kitty, you know, Hercules, these champions that just nuke through stuff with suicides. This is that build. So this is the bare bones suicide build, and I have 11 points. We'll talk about what I do with those extra points. So in the starting tree, this is just very basic. This is full suicides with the most minimal amount of points. As you'll notice here, there's 1 point left out of this cruelty. The last point isn't quite worth it, so a lot of the time I just leave that point out of there. And instead put the point into courage. 1 point in courage I always recommend. It's 10% attack rating when you fall below 50% health, and then, you know, the next it goes to 15 to 20, but that first point gives you 10%, whereas future points only give you 5%. So 1 point in courage I always highly recommend. And so from here, well, let's talk about the other trees first. So willpower maxed is pretty much an absolute must when running suicides. Unless you're going for some crazy naked and afraid stuff. That's what Brian had before. Basically, naked and afraid suicide masteries is 0 points in the defensive tree. Just go balls to the walls attack, which, I mean, if you're running like full ghost or something, then sure. But for most champions, that's not a good idea. You're definitely going to want willpower maxed. And then I like to just always have 1 point in inequity. What inequity does is it passively reduces the enemy attack for each debuff that they are currently suffering from up to a maximum of 36%. So this is just nice to have because, you know, debuffs stack up. I just like to always have 1 point in it because as long as you have one debuff on the opponent, like, their attack rating is lowered. The more debuffs, the lower the attack. That could just save you block damage. If you actually get hit, it could save your life, man. You never know. I like to just rock 1 point in it always. And then stand your ground, one of my favorite masteries, probably the most underrated mastery in the entire game. Stand your ground is insane, guys, especially for defense. It'll make your defenders way more annoying, especially if you have like a Mordo or something. They try to break through his block. Resist. You could get parry resisted too, which is crazy, man. You can parry heavy attacks with this mastery. There's a chance for it to work. I usually only rock 4 out of 5, which gives me a 33% chance, basically 1 in 3 chances. And if you go for the full 5 out of 5, 50%. So a coin flip on whether your block will get broken or not. Very, very highly recommend this mastery. It has saved me numerous times, and every time it happens, I'm just like, shout out to stand your ground, man. Shout out to stand your ground. And then you're definitely gonna want recovery always maxed out. This is one of those masteries you should just always have maxed out. It's just going to increase your regeneration rate of all sources by 15%. That's incredible. Willpower healing, just everything, any kind of healing that you can get is increased by 15% here. It's wonderful. And then, of course, block efficiency, always max that out too. And then here, this is the absolute bare bones that I'll ever rock in the proficiency tree. So, you know, 1 in parry, 1 in limber. Max stupefy, always. This mastery should always be max, guys, unless you're fighting only stun immune, you know, which I do sometimes. Like if you're fighting the war boss, you can go ahead and drop stupefy because it won't matter. And then just 1 point in dexterity. So with this basic suicides build, we have 11 extra points. Now, what would I do with these 11 extra points? Well, it totally depends on what you're doing. If you're doing Abyss or Labyrinth, or, you know, you're using Aegon primarily per se, let's say, I would get some points into this. I would increase the duration of my Fury buffs for Aegon, or if any champion, or maybe like if I was running Hulkling or something, maybe I'd put some points in here. Just any champions that have Fury buffs. This is a great mastery to use. But, you know, usually most champions don't have Fury buffs, so for a general build, it's not really the best idea. Despair is always a good mastery. I like to always have at least 1 point in Despair. And while we're going with the 1 point in Assassin as well, guys. If you don't have Assassin unlocked, it's a really good idea to just get that first point. What that first point is going to do is anytime you get your opponent below 18% health, you get increased attack, and you're lowering their defensive ability accuracy. So, you know, a lot of times you've probably had it happen to you. You get pushed below 18%, you try to parry, you see the parry pop up, but you don't get a stun. That's because the opponent's probably running Assassin. So it's a very, very good mastery. You just have, again, that 1 point in. It's so worth it for the 1 point. If you keep going, you can see for 1 point, you're getting 20% attack at 18%, and you're lowering your ability actually by 12%. For 2 points, you know, you're not getting nearly as much benefit. You're going from 20% to 30%, which is nice, but that's only half the increase of that first point, and you're only lowering ability accuracy by an extra 2% per point. So that first point, man, it's so much value in that first point of Assassin. I like to always have 1 point in there, unless the only time this has ever backfired on me was when I was fighting a thing, and Assassin started messing with his rock stacks at the end, and it actually costed me a death. That's the only time, though, Assassin's ever steered me wrong. Aside from that, it's always been great. Always like to have 1 point in there. So this looks really great. You know, if you're dealing with a lot of healing and you need more points in despair, you can do that. You know, if you're using champions that apply bleeds, you can go ahead and put some more points into deep wounds. For the most part, you only want 1 point in recoil and 1 point in glass cannon. The only times I would put more points into recoil is if I'm like only using special 3s, then that's valid. Or if I'm like only using Kitty Pryde, for example. Kitty Pryde's fully immune to recoil. As long as you throw your specials well phased, she'll never take recoil damage. So having this maxed for her could be a good idea if you're just doing kitty fights, you know. But for other champs, not going to be a good idea. Also, like Ghost, if you have the hood synergy, you can phase recoil. That's fixed now. So that would be worthwhile of 3 points in recoil as well. Or maybe if you're just running Hercules and you don't care about being at 1%, you know, that can work too. As far as any other points, it's not a bad idea to run a point in Coagulate. This is going to lower bleed damage by about 10%. And if you have a champion like Omega Red, who's already, and I think Sauron too, these champions that are 90% resistant to bleed, if you put 1 point in Coagulate, that 10 and 90 get merged to 100%. It adds straight up. So boom, now you're fully immune to bleed. And that's really good in Alliance War, or, you know, if you get crit bleed or something, only being 90% immune to it, you can still take damage. But if you're 100%, you're chilling, right? And then, you know, Resonate, you can, so it depends. Like if I'm using like primarily like only Void, maybe I'll throw a point in Resonate. But for the most part, it's just kind of annoying, I find. And I don't run it, especially if like you're an avid arena runner. Running Resonate wouldn't be a good idea. It's just going to give them willpower healing, make your fights longer. But in certain fights, it's definitely a good idea. Resonate's really great if I was doing Abyss. When I'm doing Abyss, oh yeah, hell yeah, run Resonate, because you're just lowering your opponent's attack. Less block damage. If you get hit, less damage. It's great. So in anywhere where they don't have willpower, Resonate's a great mastery to have. And as far as the rest of my points here, you know, on Legs Junior, I actually have the XP masteries maxed out because I'm trying to get to level 60 on Legs Junior. Honestly, wouldn't even be a bad idea to get these gold masteries, dude. I maybe should get them because I'm starting to run low on gold. With rank 4s now, gold is a problem. Should get some pittance. But, you know, Mystic Dispersion, I don't have enough to be running that with Suicides. But Petrify is a pretty great mastery. I like to run this with Human Torch sometimes. Just going for parry, medium, light, mediums. You can get off more attacks before they get specials. And, yeah, Petrify is great. Pacify can also be great. Used to always run this back in the day when I was fighting Magic. You know, parry before you push over Borrow Power to try to prevent Limbo. And Pacify 3 out of 3, you can lower it by 30%. This can be really great with Magneto as well. You can fully bypass like Safeguard if you parry Special 3 with Magneto. You never have to worry. So, you know, certain masteries can really, really complement certain champions. So it's definitely good to know about that. But yeah, I'd say that's pretty much it for this Suicide build. Now let's go jump to the main server, and I'll show you guys pretty much my go-to mastery setup. The mastery setup that I'm pretty much rocking like 80-90% of the time. Alright guys, so jumping back to the main server, this is pretty much my go-to master setup that I'm rocking all the time. Maybe slight variation, a point here or two there difference, but this is my go-to. So this is what I really like for Battlegrounds, for Offensive Alliance War, for Defensive Alliance War too. These are the masteries I place my defense with, which is great. And then it's a good mastery build for attack as well, so I don't have to switch. I probably rocked this build like the entire last season. I don't think I changed my masteries once. So this is just a really great all-around build that I find. So let's go through it. So again, we got 1 point missing out of cruelty here. Don't need that 5th point in there. Instead, we max out deep wounds. Go for the full 5 out of 5 in there. Really good from all my bleed champions like Nick Fury, him especially. 1 point assassin. That 1 point is just so worth it. Like I said, I'd like to max despair. I guess I was missing a point here, but that's fine. And then in the defensive tree, I probably put that other point here into coagulate just to help with bleeds anytime. 1 point in that inequity. 4 to 5, stand in your ground, willpower always maxed with or without suicides, doesn't matter. Recovery always maxed. And then in the proficiency tree, I really like running 5 out of 5 limber. Just always running 5 out of 5 limber feels great because you get stunned sometimes. It just happens. Sometimes the AI is weird. Sometimes you get parried. Who knows? Sometimes you just get stunned. So lowering that stun by just about 50% with max limber is insane. Should always be running max limber, and it's so good, especially in Abyss. If you're doing Abyss, always max out limber. So important in there. One of the most important masteries in Abyss, and is really good for Alliance War as well. Again, offense or defense, doesn't even matter. And then I personally like to run 5 out of 5 in Mystic Dispersion. Again, especially for Battlegrounds. Got a lot of Mystic champions. Newly ranked 4 Doctor Doom. So, you know, if they get even the dexterity buff, can give 12% of my power. That's huge. That adds up. 5 out of 5 MD is very, very strong. Highly recommend running it. Highly recommend working to unlock it. It's definitely, in my opinion, the best class mastery. I say tech is also pretty good, but the rest just kind of suck. But Mystic, the Mystic one is so strong, and it's always been. It's crazy. I really hope that Kabam eventually reworks some of these other masteries, like this Cosmic one, dude. Look at this. Imbue Cosmic Champions with Perception rivaling Heimdall. This was way before Heimdall was even in the game. Reducing the effectiveness of enemy armor buffs by 2.5%. Bro, why would I be reducing the effects of armor ups with Cosmic Champs? I'm just going to break their armor. Like with CGR, bro, we just screw armors. We're breaking armors. Yeah, the tech one is actually pretty good, color tech. If you guys run like Punisher 2099, he's pretty crazy with this. Your tech champs just lower the amount of power the enemies gain. It's pretty great for a max of 18%. The science one's okay. You can get some energy resistance, but it's only at 5 out of 5. Well, still less than 1,000. To put that into perspective, Guardian, he gets like 8,000 energy resistance or something with him at Sig 200. And then the skill one, oh god. Well, extensive field training, skill champions ignore an additional 4% of enemy armor and resistance with critical hits. Critical hits already ignore that. No, don't need that. And mutagenesis, rapid mutagenesis on your mutant champions causes bleed debuffs to expire 0.5 seconds faster. I remember, I think it was like Frojo, he was telling me way back in the day, he used to run Rogue with this, and it was good, but like, yeah, these other classes really need a rework, but MD is so strong, so I like to run that 5 out of 5. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for this mastery setup video. This is what the masteries that I'm rocking in 2022. These mastery setups carry me very far in Battlegrounds and can carry you very far as well. So that's going to do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think of my mastery setup. If you run something similar, if you changed something, love to hear about it. If you guys would like to subscribe to the channel, we are pushing for 100,000, man. We're getting so close. And once we get there, we're going to be eating this, the world's hottest gummy bear. I'm so excited for it, guys. You guys are making my dream come true to get that plaque, hit 100K, man. God, it's going to be a good day. But that's going to do it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did. Subscribe if you like some more content. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.